Hi everybody, welcome to the Music 648 Intro to Using the Library. My name is Steve Henry. I am the head of the Michelle Smith Performing Arts Library, and I'm also the Music Liaison Librarian. And I'm talking to you today in my role as the Music Liaison Librarian. What that means is I essentially am here to help you use the library, find resources on topics, do research, and also to make sure the library has things in its collections to help you. So ordinarily in early semester Music 648 class, I would drop in and give you a tour of the library, talk a bit about using the library, and just meet you in person. We can't do that, so I'm making this video that will hopefully be helpful for you. So since we can't do the tour, I'm going to focus on navigating our website, just seeing what we have available, how to get more help, how to find me, because I probably can't give you everything you need to know in this one video, and also how we're working during the COVID-19 pandemic. And then I'm going to show you some tips on using WorldCat, which is the primary catalog you will be using to identify things to finish this course, as well as just your time here at the University of Maryland. And then finally, I'll wrap it up with just a few tricks and tips for basically making it easier for you to access things in our library from off campus, because that seems to be one of the biggest barriers, is just sort of getting past the paywalls and getting access to things you know exist. So welcome. I'm going to share my screen now and show you some things on the website. So here we go. Okay, so right away, the first thing and maybe most important thing I want to show you is how to contact me and ask for more help or request something. And the way to do that is, well, there are many ways, but I'm going to show you, in case you forget who I am or forget what my contact info is. You can go to the library homepage, lib.umd.edu. You're going to click this link over here to help, and then meet your subject specialist. And then finally, subject specialist directory. So University of Maryland libraries have many different subject specialists in all different subjects, and they're all listed here. They're listed by name. So if you remember my last name is Henry, you can find me this way. But if you forget and you just remember there's a music person, you can go to subject and then just browse down to music, and you should find me right here. So now that you've found me in the directory, we're going to go ahead and click on my name. This brings up my librarian profile, and it has the ways to contact me. I think email right now is the best because I'm working from home, shenry@umd.edu. You can also schedule a consultation, and the scheduling a consultation button will bring up a little calendar widget that shows the office hours and the times I'm available. I believe this is set to go in 1/2 hour increments. If you need longer than that, we can set that up also. So the things I can do that you might want to contact me about would be, first of all, I have a budget and I can purchase things for the library: scores, sets of parts, books, recordings, video. I can also help you get things from other libraries if we don't have them. And there's self-serve ways to do that too, which I'll get into in this video. But in case you're having any trouble, you can always contact me. And then I also can help you find resources and start researching a topic. So you don't know what you need yet. You're just getting started, or maybe you're doing a dissertation or thesis and you really want to dive in and find everything that might be available. That's a perfect use of a consultation. You can also send me an email about those things. I might suggest that it requires a consultation, but those are some of the options that are available. All right, so I'm going to reappear again to tell you a few things about COVID and how we're operating. So with the pandemic, unfortunately, Michelle Smith Performing Arts Library is closed and will remain closed throughout the fall semester. So you won't be able to come in and get things. But don't worry, we have lots and lots of electronic stuff available: ebooks, e-journals, streaming audio, streaming video. that should help you get through the semester. In addition, we are offering curbside pickup for physical objects from our collection, so books, scores, CDs, LPs. Those can all be requested to go over to McKeldin. You can pick them up. We're going to get into that in this video a bit. And we can also scan things like chapters of a book or, in some cases, parts of a score, journal articles if they're print only, either from our collection. We do have staff going into the library, or if we don't have something, we can also get other libraries to scan things for us. And again, I'll get into that in the course of this video as well. All of the librarians and curators and staff from the Michelle Smith Performing Arts Library are working from home, and they're available through email. We get on Zoom meetings all the time, so we can talk to you in person if we need to. So I just wanted to reassure you, although things are a little weird, we have lots of ways to help you get what you need and talk to you. So I'm going to go back to the screen and start talking a little bit more depth about the website. So let's now do a quick overview of the library's website, and I know it's boring watching people navigate a website, so I'll go through this quickly. It's pretty simple. We already looked at lib.umd.edu. That's the main page for all the libraries on the University of Maryland campus, and that's probably where you would spend most of your time. I'm from the Michelle Smith Performing Arts Library, but we're one of 8 on campus, and all of our services and searching and databases are all centrally located from this one page. The search box here in the middle of the screen, we'll get to in a bit, but that's the main place you want to search the catalog to see what we have. And the databases tab we'll also get into a bit, and that's any databases all across campus. There is also a separate Michelle Smith Performing Arts Library page, and there are some reasons you might want to use that. You can get to it by going to Libraries and Spaces up at the top here and selecting the library you want. One thing you might want to do from this page is to see the staff list and the contact information. That's under About Us over on the left. There's a search box and databases on this page as well, and they do the same as the search box and databases list that's on the main libraries page. And then we also have 2 special collections in the Michelle Smith Performing Arts Library, and the best way to know about them and to access their collections is to go through this Michelle Smith Performing Arts Library page. The 2 special collections are over here on the left, and they are the International Piano Archives at Maryland and Special Collections in Performing Arts. So let's start with the International Piano Archives at Maryland, or IPAM as we tend to call it. The International Piano Archives at Maryland collects on the history of classical piano performance. They have very strong recording collections, including at least 90% of known piano recordings ever, including old obsolete formats like 78 RPM records, reel-to-reel tape. They also have papers of pianists, and you can see the papers, or the list of the pianists whose papers and archives are at IPAM over here on the left. Some of these have full listings of what's in the collection, and some are a little more schematic. With the recordings that IPAM has, many are available through the regular catalog search, which we will get to in just a bit. And then there are others that are not fully processed, and the best way to just know what's going on in IPAM is to contact the curator. Curator's name is Don Manildi. He has contact information over here on the right. He's very responsive to email, so if you have a question about something in IPAM, my advice is to check directly with Don. One thing to note is, like I said, we don't have any public access to the Performing Arts Library this semester, fall. But we are able to get in if there's a strong need for something scanned from the collection. We can often do that for you. So contact the curator, and he will be able to advise on what we can do for you. The other special collection in the Michelle Smith Performing Arts Library is Special Collections in Performing Arts, and we call that one SCIPA for short. I'm just going to go back to the MS PAL page and select SCIPA over here. So SCIPA has very strong archival collections in a range of topics, but strengths would include music education, band history, clarinet, popular music, DC area punk and indie fanzines is an emerging collecting area, and many others. You can access collecting areas over on this through this list on the right. They also have an extensive score collection, and many of those are rare or hard to find scores, and those are in a number of areas. There's a link here to a special search box that will search just SCIPA's scores collections. And so this is separate from some of the other searches. Okay, and then finally, their archival collections are to be found using this link. And this will take you to the collection of finding aids at the University of Maryland. These are inventories of archives and papers in special collections. So not necessarily digitized holdings, although there are some of those too. But this will let you just search and just see what we have. So like IPAM, whenever you're using a special collection or an archive, I definitely recommend working directly with a curator because they really know what's in the collection. Sometimes there are hidden things, and they can sort of work with you and get to the bottom of what they might have that could help you. And so for SCIPA, they have this contact form here, and you can use it to contact the interim curator of SCIPA, John Davis. The rest of the stuff in the library that's not in the special collections is what I refer to as the general collections. And that's just what you think about when you think about a library. The books, the scores, sets of parts, recordings, basically anything for the most part that you can check out and take home normally. There are reference materials too that stay in the library, but I just wanted to give you a sense of what we mean when we say general collection. That's what we're going to spend the rest of this video talking about. Also in the general collections category are electronic subscription resources that we also sometimes just call databases, and that covers a lot of stuff. I'm going to show you that in a bit. And finally, I do want to let you know, usually when I do the tour, I'll point out that we have equipment that you can check out. Things like Zoom recorders, laptops, iPads, you name it, phone chargers, all that sort of thing. Some of that is going to be available soon at McKeldin Library. It's not quite yet, but there is equipment at McKeldin that you can also check out that will be available. So I did want to let you, I'm not going to show it to you on the screen or anything, but I did want to let you know that that existed as well. Okay, so let's get into looking at how you can discover and access general collections things. Okay, so for general collections stuff, we're going to go back to the library's main page. And these are best discovered through the search box in the middle I pointed out previously. And there are two tabs, Get Started and Databases. We're going to come back to Get Started. I just want to touch briefly on databases. I'm not going to go into them too deeply because there's a lot. But databases are essentially online resources that the university subscribes to that are not open to the general public. So whenever you use these, you will have to sign in. I'm just going to go into them just so you can see what we have. If you know the name of one of them, you can search for it in the box, pretty self-explanatory. But if you just want to see what we have for the music category, you can click this link at the bottom. Scroll down and find databases by subject and find music, and there they are. So now that you're into the list of music databases, I'll just show at the top we have what we call the best bets. These are things that I've selected as the most useful databases. So if you're lost, you'll know where to go. You'll get into many of these over the course of this class. But briefly, JSTOR you've probably already used before. It's a vast full-text scholarly journal article database. Naxos Music Library is streaming audio. Oxford Music Online is mostly useful for having the entire Grove Dictionary of Music and Musicians within it, the Standard Encyclopedia of Music. RILM is the standard scholarly index to writings on music going back to 1967. Then we have a lot more stuff below. Not all of this is strictly music, but all of these things have been chosen, and they tend to be useful for people doing music research. And then finally, also note there are some just fun things in here as well, including streaming live video. For example, we have a subscription to Met Opera On Demand, and we also have Medici TV. All those sorts of things are found in this databases list. Now let's go back and look at searching the catalog or WorldCat. We're going to go back to the library home screen, and we are going to choose the Get Started tab. And you'll see there are two radio buttons to search either classic catalog or WorldCat. And we're going to work with WorldCat today. Quick explanation of what WorldCat means. WorldCat is what we call our local catalog, essentially. And it's the inventory of everything we have physically in the library, for starters, books, scores, recordings. And also, it gives access to electronic versions of things that are like those physical objects in the catalog. So e-books, streaming audio, streaming video, and online scores. It's not the place you want to go if you just want to look for journal articles or something like that. I would not recommend that. And then also WorldCat, the name, needs some explanation too. So it's the World Catalog, and what WorldCat is a shared catalog of libraries around the world, mostly in the United States and Europe and Canada. But all of their holdings are discoverable through the same interface. Which can create a little bit of confusion and a sense of being overwhelmed, but there are ways around it. So what it's going to do when you search is it'll show you things that we have at the University of Maryland first, and then once you get through all those results, it might start showing you results from other Maryland campuses like Towson or UMBC. Then it'll start showing you things in other Big Ten schools, which when we don't have a pandemic going on are very easy for us to get. And then it'll show you the rest of the world. So it's sort of a one-stop shop for finding things in libraries everywhere, with an emphasis on what we have first. And it's basically definitely the first place you want to go just to start looking for things on a topic or to see if we have a score or set of parts. So let's get into that. All right, so we're just going to do a pretty basic search. You can make these fancy if you want, but I'm just going to do sort of a typical Google style keyword search. And I'm going to use a real world example. Someone was asking me last week about Newman's books on Beethoven sonatas. So let's do a quick search on that. Go ahead and log in if you're off campus. Again, this is username and password, or UID and password. Do the multi-factor thing. And then you should get a list of results. Okay, so first thing I want to point out in the list of results that causes confusion is you want to check to make sure the University of Maryland has the thing you want. So we are searching WorldCat, and like I said, it does search everything around the world and other libraries, but it will show you the things that we have first. But sometimes you might do a search and just find something that find nothing we have and only things we don't have. So the first thing you want to check is this held by and look for University of Maryland College Park. Now the next thing to note is you're going to get books as well as recordings and probably other things as well. So here's a book. Down here we have a recording. So let's say we only want books right now. The way to get to those is don't go up into your search and type book. Go over here on the left and use these things that we call the format limits. Click book and you'll get only books. Note also that book means any kind of book. So ebooks will come up, as well as print books. There are other format limits that might be useful too. Just they're good to know about. I'm not going to use them right now, but something like date, if you want to find something published in the last 10 years, that sort of thing. These are all over here on the left. Now let's go back and look at our first two book results. So you'll see the first one is an ebook. Second one is a print book. You can tell because it doesn't have the ebook link. It also has a call number and a physical shelf location that you won't be able to access right now. Okay, so let's click on the print book first and take a look at this. Now, before you go running to the shelf to get it, which you can't do, but before you request it for curbside pickup, it's good to look at the description over here. So view description, and this will just give you a little more information about what you're looking at. Often all the contents will be listed, so all the chapter titles or all the essays of the collection. The subject headings are down here. These are really good to use and know about. What these are the cataloger of this book chose from a controlled list of subject terms that the Library of Congress maintains. And what that means basically is if you find one book that's on your subject, by clicking these, it's a very precise search that should theoretically give you all the other books that the Library of Congress knows about anyway on your topic. And then finally, down below, we have bibliographical note that says the book has bibliographic references. And that's just a good clue that you're looking at something that's a pretty academic, scholarly book. Not a surefire bet, but in general, if you see this note saying there are bibliographical references, that's more of a scholarly, academic type book. So now we've decided we definitely do want this book, and we want to get it. So the way to do that is scroll down a bit more, and you're going to look at check availability. So like I said, typically you'd be able to get this book off the shelf using the call number, but since we're closed, you're going to request it and get it at curbside pickup in McKeldin Library. So it's very simple. Basically just click the request button, follow the prompts, choose College Park as your location, and then you're going to have a drop-down menu with the places that are possible to pick it up, and you're probably going to choose curbside pickup at McKeldin and then submit, which I'm not going to do, or else I'll request it, and then you're done. Do please make sure the book is available first. It's something else that trips people up if it's missing or lost or something like that. You just won't be able to get it. I mean, you'll know eventually, but you can save yourself some pain and time by making sure the thing says it's actually available before you do this. So that's how you're going to access a print book from our collection for curbside pickup. And the same process goes for a score or a set of parts, recordings, and physical formats like CDs or LPs. It's all the same. But I do want to show you how things are a little different if you want an ebook. So let's go back to the very first result we got from this search. And let's say it's an ebook. Let's click on the title and get more information, and then we're going to go straight to the availability section. So the thing to note here is this is actually a sort of a special class of ebook. And what is special about it is it's in something called the HathiTrust Emergency Access Collection. A few words about what HathiTrust is. HathiTrust is basically a non-profit shared collaborative version of Google Books. So you've probably seen things in Google Books. When Google created their Google Books project, they worked with several libraries around the country, and those libraries were had the foresight and were pretty smart to, when they agreed to let Google into their library to scan everything, they kept the rights to make their own version, basically. So that's what HathiTrust is. So it's all the same stuff that was in Google Books, plus things that have been added to it since that project started, but in a shared nonprofit way that isn't going to go away if Google decides the Google Books project isn't profitable anymore or anything like that. And like Google Books, HathiTrust for things that are in copyright only provides searching. So you can search within the contents. You can see something exists, but you can't necessarily read it. You usually can't read it unless it's in the public domain. But what has happened is that with the pandemic going on, the HathiTrust decided that was enough of an emergency that they opened up access to the content to libraries that have things in HathiTrust or things on their shelf that match what's in HathiTrust. So that's why we have access to these ebooks while the pandemic is on. At some point, these things will go away. But for right now, we have access to a lot of stuff in ebook form that we wouldn't normally have. So let me just tell you how to access things and a few quirks about using it. There is one weird thing with HathiTrust you need to know about, and I've been fielding a lot of questions about this, so I just want to make sure you know ahead of time. And the weird thing is, when you get a book in HathiTrust, you're going to have to log in a second time, which is unusual. We don't usually make you do that, but that's how HathiTrust set it up. So to get to this book, you're going to click View the ebook. And that's usually all you need to do. But this time it's going to take you out to the HathiTrust website, and if you scroll down, you're going to see the description tells you our access is limited and you can search it only, which isn't really what you want. So the trick is you need to know that there's another login button up at the top right of the screen here. Once you know it's there, it's pretty easy and self-explanatory. You just need to choose the University of Maryland as your institution, log in like normal, and now you'll be able to read the book. There are a couple caveats with HathiTrust I should tell you about. Also, the first is that only one person at a time can use an ebook in HathiTrust. Second is anything in HathiTrust is not downloadable or printable. You have to use it from their website. And the other thing that's probably the biggest bummer is that even if we have a print version of something that's in HathiTrust, the print version we have becomes inaccessible. So in other words, if we have a print book sitting on our shelf, but that book is also in HathiTrust, you won't be able to request the print book through curbside pickup, even if that's what you would prefer to read. And that becomes probably a bigger problem with things like a set of parts, like maybe a string quartet or something like that. It's really hard to use the HathiTrust version because not all 4 people in your quartet can look at the same thing at the same time, and you can't download or distribute parts. So that's a bummer. The reason for basically all that is just copyright. So HathiTrust is sort of, I think they see themselves as going out on a limb a bit to offer the stuff that's all copyrighted just because of the pandemic, and that's really great that they've done that. But they are concerned that publishers will object or sue them. So they have made this decision that if they're going to offer up the electronic version, we can't use our print. So then we can't be accused of both having access to one copy electronically as well as another print one. So I just wanted to throw that out there and try to explain the situation and why you might run into some troubles with HathiTrust. Now I just want to point out a few real quick things in WorldCat just to sort of cover all the bases. So I mentioned that you'll find recordings, or we already found some recordings in the search already. If you want to go back and look at those, what you would do is click on Refine the Search up here, and then change your format limit from book to recording. And the one thing I want to point out here is you will see not only things like physical recordings like CDs or LPs, but you'll also get links into streaming online recordings, which you can listen to from anywhere. And that's what is going on here. Another important use of WorldCat would be to identify journals we have in the collection, either electronic or print. You wouldn't go to WorldCat to do something like search for articles on a topic, but let's say you've identified that an article exists. Maybe you've used Rilum or Google Scholar or JSTOR, or something is cited in a book you're reading, and you want to know if we have the journal. You can go to WorldCat. This is the best way to find if we have it. Just search for the name of the journal title. So let's say, for example, we want something in the Journal of the American Musicological Society. I can type that in the search box and search. Now you can click on Access Journal to see the different ways we have of accessing the journal. And many times there might be multiple ways. So there might be a print journal on the shelf. It may be in one online repository. It might be available electronically from the publisher. So there are different ways, and different ways of accessing have different advantages. The one thing to definitely note, though, when you pull this Access Journal list up is you want to look at the dates of coverage. So JSTOR has jams for a certain range of years, but they don't have the more recent years. And then the journal publisher website does have the more recent years, but doesn't go all the way back. So make sure you have your citation, know the year or the volume number you need, and follow the appropriate link. Something else that confuses people often with WorldCat is when you do a search for something and you just can't find it at all, and you know it exists. And usually what's going on in that case is that we just don't have it. So recall that the results by default in WorldCat are sorted so that it shows you what we have first. So if you do a pretty general search and just nothing is popping up, it's because it's trying to show you things we have before the rest of the world. So here is an example of something that came up recently. Someone was looking for the Oxford Handbook of Critical Concepts in Music Theory. So now looking through the search results, you can see the book is just not here. And you can probably go through many pages of these results and just not find anything. So the trick here is you want to go over here on the left and change your sort order from library, which is the default, to best match. And all that does is it's just going to ignore whether the University of Maryland has the thing or has a match to the search, and we'll just show you everything in libraries around the world. So it should pop up right at the top. This is really important when you start to do a thesis or a dissertation, and you will likely need things beyond what we have in our collection. So you don't want to be limited to what we have. You're doing original research and you want everything. So that's just a good trick when you're being really comprehensive, or if you're just trying to make sure you're not going crazy and there's something really does exist. Normally, if we weren't in a pandemic, you'd be able to request things from a whole book from another library pretty simply, or a whole score from another library. We can't do that right now. Hopefully that'll loosen up sometime soon, but it's likely not going to happen in the fall semester. So you can request a chapter or two from a book from another library, and I'll show you in just a sec how to do that. But the other thing you can do is if there's something you want that we don't have, let me know and I can see if there's an ebook we can purchase. That's about the best we can do right now. Most recent books that are published do have ebook versions available. Unfortunately, most scores do not. But basically just let me know and we can see what we can do. Finally, in WorldCat, there are just a couple, I guess I would call them meta features that you might want to know about. And those are linking and citing. So on each result, you'll see a link. And this is what you want to use if you want to send this link to yourself for later. Maybe you're just can't get to it right now, but you want to remember it. You want to email it to yourself, or you want to save a page of links. This is the link you want to use. Don't try to copy the URL from the browser. It often contains weird session information that'll mess it up. And then cite will attempt to give you a formatted citation in the style of your choice. And that can save you some time when you're preparing a bibliography, maybe a list of resources, that sort of thing. I definitely would warn you not to trust it fully. So if you're getting graded it on your formatting of citations, or if you're submitting something for publication, you're still going to have to go get your Chicago Manual style or your Turabian out or whatever you're using and make sure that the citations WorldCat gave you are okay. Occasionally it just does some weird, surprising things based on the metadata that was put in. But it's good. It's a good start, and it's easier than typing everything by hand, I think. It's easier to go back and change a period or something like that. So it's good to know. So now I'm going to leave WorldCat, and we're almost done here. I just have a few more tips and things you'll need to know about. One thing you'll want to know is how to request a chapter or a journal article to be scanned. And so that's anything that's either in our own library that's inaccessible, or other libraries. We are getting scanned chapters and scanned journal articles from other libraries, even with the pandemic. And so the way to do that is I'm going to leave WorldCat, go back to the library homepage, go to Find and Cite at the top, and then enter library loan. And then I'm not going to go beyond here, but you're just going to click log in with your UMD account. You're going to find a web form that's going to say request an article or a chapter. And you're going to fill it out. So you do need to know the name of the chapter, page numbers, the book or the journal, that sort of thing. But presumably you found this through searching other means. And that's all you're going to need to do. There is more extensive instructions if you need it here. Okay, so I have two more tips left I want to tell you about. The first is called the reload button. So I'm going to show you where it is first, and I'll explain what it does. So to get to this thing, you're going to go to the library homepage, and then up in this top right search box, not the big one we've been using, just search for reload. And then you're going to find this little guide down at the bottom. And then there is this little bookmarklet, I guess. And you're going to drag that into your bookmarks bar. You only have to do this once in each browser you use, and then it will always be there. So what this thing is doing is once it's there, you can use it to route whatever page you're viewing currently through the University of Maryland proxy server. And if it's used if you are landing on something that is behind a paywall, you don't have access to it, but you can see it exists. Usually it happens with something like a newspaper article that you can't get, or a journal article, or sometimes an ebook. And you think maybe the University of Maryland subscribes. So you just click the reload button, and if you haven't logged in yet, it will ask you to log in, and then it will reload the same page through the proxy server. And if it's something the University of Maryland has access to, you will now have access. Finally, many of you probably use Google Scholar. If you don't know about Google Scholar, it's basically a version of Google that searches scholarly literature, so journal articles, dissertations, that sort of thing. It's really handy to use, actually. But there's one trick to it that a lot of people don't know that makes it much more useful now that you're students at the University of Maryland. And that is that you can tell it what university or libraries you have privileges at. So here's Google Scholar. The first thing you want to do is make sure you're logged in, and remember that the University of Maryland email account is also a Google account, so you can just use that. Then if you haven't done this, you have to do it one time, and you want to click this hamburger menu at the top and find the setting for library links. And then here you can search for the University of Maryland. It's going to say find it at University of Maryland, I believe, and add that as one of your libraries. If you're teaching at another library, or sorry, another university or something like that, and you have access, you can also add any of the universities you have access to. Save that, and then as long as you're logged in when you use Google Scholar, what it's going to do is provide special links. Ours will say find at UMC, I believe, UMUC. And what it's going to do is it's going to detect that we probably have access to something. And so you can just click those links, and it's going to take you into the library's resources to give you access. So it just provides more than what Google would have if you didn't do this little step. It's very handy to have. Okay, so that covers what I wanted to cover in this video. I hope that was helpful to get you started. I'm sure there will be many things that will come up that we didn't cover. I'll put my email address up one last time so you can contact me if you have further questions. I'm happy to talk to you. I hope you have success in this course, and if you're new to the University of Maryland, welcome. I hope you'll enjoy your time here, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.